What's up, y'all? It's popping in. Today, about to react to this video. It's titled "The Dark History of Martin: Behind the Scenes Harassment, Abuse, Threats, and Lawsuits." So I vaguely remember hearing something about this years ago about how Martin was like weird with Gina, and that's why the show had to end or something. But I don't know all the details, so they about to give us all the tea because I want to know. Because Martin is a classic. I know the lines from many episodes. This is a very strong show in my household. So, yeah, very familiar with this. Fresh Prince. What are some other shows I can recite? Wayne's Brothers. I can recite lines from that show as well. But yeah, this is a classic, so it does suck that it has some dark history, but let's see what happened. Let's watch.
By 1992, there were already a few prominent sitcoms featuring African-American families, like The Cosby Show and Family Matters. Another show, however...
I did get into The Cosby Show, I ain't gonna lie. They used to have reruns on Nick at Night, and I started watching it randomly one day, because at first I was just like, this old corny show, like, I'm not interested in that. But I just decided to watch it one day, and I was like, this is a cool little show, I ain't gonna lie.
Was about to debut that year would be unique in that its main two stars played a black couple that a new generation of fans could relate to. Young adults who didn't want something as wholesome as the other popular options thoroughly enjoyed it, as did teens who thought the edgier comedy was way cooler than anything else that was available to watch. That show was called Martin. It all came about after stand-up comedian Martin Lawrence gained massive attention being featured on the HBO television series Def Comedy Jam. Martin and his manager started shopping around an idea they had for a comedy show of their own, a sitcom that would draw on Martin's gift for creating characters. HBO agreed to make a pilot, and then Fox gave it the green light. Martin aired for 5 seasons on Fox from 1992 to 1997. Not only did Martin star in the show, he's also tapped as its creator, along with John Bowman and Topper Carew. All three also served as executive producers. He played the role of Martin Payne, a disc jockey in Detroit, Michigan. While he could be quite caring on the inside, on the outside, he often acted macho and selfish. He worked for the fictional radio station WCUP, and later for local public access television station Channel 51, as host of the talk show Word on the Street.
Let me tell you a little something about my girl, Gina. Gina worships the ground I walk on. If I tell Gina...
I have not seen this episode in a long time, but again, I've seen every episode several times, so...
...to jump, she just said,
ha!
I tell her to watch her head because you're going to the moon.
Gina Waters Payne, played by Tisha Campbell, was Martin's girlfriend and later wife. She was fun-loving, romantic, and often acted as a peacemaker among her friends. She worked for a public relations firm and held a master's degree in the discipline.
You are now looking at the new assistant director.
What? Girl, you're getting us paid, you know that, huh?
Pamela Pam James, played by Tashina Arnold, was Gina's best friend and co-worker. She had a lot of sass.
Girl, we know. Speed this part up.
And a banging
what happened?
Cole, one of Martin's best friends,
Where's
was really
the
feeling
dirt?
her in early episodes, but she would never give him the time of day. Who she was feeling was Martin's other best friend, Tommy. She also had a particularly antagonistic relationship with Martin.
There aren't any good men around, and you and your friends keep proving me right.
You know what? Pull my razor works and go shave your back. Do that.
Fun fact, Martin and Tisha actually go way back. They even shared the big screen in 1990's House Party and 1992's Boomerang. He hit Tisha up about doing his own sitcom when they both attended the Boomerang premiere. He told her he was in the process of putting the project together and wanted her to play his girlfriend. It took some doing to get her to come on board, though, since by the time he finalized everything, she'd already filmed the pilot of another show that had gotten picked up. Martin didn't care. He was determined to make Tisha his Gina. So he went over to her apartment to give her his sales pitch, not knowing he'd encounter Tashina there as well, since they were roommates. You see, Tashina and Tisha go way back too, all the way to childhood. They started auditioning around New York City together when they were 11 and 12 respectively. They also booked together when they both appeared in the 1986 movie Little Shop of Horrors as part of a singing trio. As it turns out, Tashina had already auditioned for a role on the show and made Tisha promise her that she wouldn't let on to Martin that they knew each other because she wanted to get the job on her own. Tisha did keep quiet, and Tashina did get the job on her own.
God.
Thomas Tommy Strawn, played by Thomas Michael Ford, was one of Martin's best friends since childhood. Level-headed, intelligent, and charming, he would often serve as the voice of reason, and also portrayed himself to be a ladies' man. He had a romantic relationship with Pam during the 3rd and 4th seasons. His mysterious employment status was a running gag on the show, with everyone coming to the conclusion that it was because he didn't have a job.
You just happen to have a blowtorch machine.
Work.
I need this for work, man. Ain't got no job.
Cole Brown, played by Carl Anthony Payne II, was Martin's other best friend. Dim-witted but well-meaning, he cleaned jets at the airport for a living, drove an old car, and lived with his mother.
I got dreams too. Big dreams. You know, moms ain't gonna live forever, right? One day I'm gonna get that room with the window.
Fun fact, both Tommy and Carl also had old ties to their future co-stars. Martin called Tommy directly to tell him about the show and asked him to be a part of it, while Carl already knew Tisha and Tashina from the audition circuit in New York. While Cole and Martin were best friends on the show, Carl and Martin had a rather rocky real-life relationship. Rumors of the tension between the two were eventually confirmed by Carl in 2015 during an interview with This Is 50.
You and Martin did not get along. He was always undermining you and whatnot, and you know he picked on you real hard.
Yeah, good shot.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
What was y'all issue?
I don't know. I can tell you what. I never had an issue. You know what I'm saying? I developed an issue. Like if you got an issue with me, I'm gonna be like, you know, what's up? You good? I ain't got no problem with you. So.
In addition to the Fantastic Five, 2 other characters got quite a bit of screen time in the first couple seasons. Sean McDermott, played by John Grise, was the scatterbrain radio station engineer where Martin worked. And Stan Winters, played by Garrett Morris, was Martin and Sean's boss, the owner of WZUP. He typically used too much cologne and wore outdated clothing from the 70s.
New policy, man. Collect call interviews only from now on. You got that?
Reportedly, he was meant to play a bigger role in later seasons, but these plans had to be scrapped when he became the victim of a 1994 holdup attempt, taking several shots to the chest and stomach. The show then went through massive rewrites, and Stan was written out. He still filmed a few scenes from his actual hospital bed to tie up the storyline. That explanation makes it seem like Garrett left on his own accord, but that wasn't the case. Many years after he left, he revealed that he'd been fired by Martin himself, while still laid up in the hospital.
That's when the person who was producing Martin decided to fire me while I was actually in the hospital itself. I received a script this was my 4th major operation, and I received a script that said, Stan sells the radio station and moves to China. So I said to the makeup lady, I said, does that mean I'm out of the show? She says, yeah, it looks like to me. Anyway, that's one reason why I didn't want to go through it, but that's what happened basically while I was actually in the hospital. For some reason, they decided to get rid of it.
It does sound fucked up, and they need to get to the T. I'm going to speed it up again, Jesus Christ. But yeah, that sounds fucked up. But I mean, it is a show. It's a business. And it's like, and he said after his 4th major operation, it's like, all right, this ain't looking like it's going too well. Not saying he ain't going to make it, but it's like, you clearly need a lot of downtime. And we don't have the type of time. Like, we got to keep this show moving. So unfortunately, we got to let you go. So I get that, to be honest.
To this day, he still doesn't understand why he was let go. He also admitted that Martin lied to the media when he said that he visited Garrett after his shooting and cried by his bedside. Martin premiered on August 27, 1992. In early episodes, he began with a monologue of him speaking directly to the camera and audience from his darkened radio studio. Like all sitcoms, Martin was based on a script written ahead of time to guide the show. But at any given point throughout filming, he would completely throw those instructions out the window. His improvised antics were so hilarious on set that it was often difficult for the other cast members not to break character and bust out laughing. Not everyone was laughing though. While Martin earned a following of diehard fans, the show also had its share of critics.
Its street-smart hip-hop air drew criticism from some, most notably comedian Bill Cosby. who lambasted it as a bad role model for young blacks.
Oh, but you a good
Look at
one?
us and go, wow, they're not the Huxtables. But we're not trying to be the Huxtables. And we should try to be the Huxtables.
Oh,
You
the
know, if they can do
hypocrisy.
that, we can do this.
Fans couldn't care less about what the critics had to say and continue to show their support by tuning in every week. The following are some of the most classic episodes that remain unforgettable. In Really, Gina Is Not My Lover, Season 2, Episode 2, Martin stresses to Gina how important it is to him for her to look her best at his upcoming high school reunion so he can impress his old nemesis, Ricky Fontaine.
Pretty Ricky, what they called.
She goes all out getting ready, but ends up with a botched dental procedure, leaving her numb and swollen, and an allergic reaction in the form of a terrible rash.
This is me,
all
bro.
over
I got an allergic reaction right now. I'm so ugly. These lights are helping me a lot, bro.
her face.
It don't look this bad, but it's not good.
Her facial. While Martin tells Gina to stay home and goes without her, she shows up later, and Martin has to figure out how to deal with the situation.
I let you down. I took the pill and I had no neck. And now I'm fine.
In Hollywood Swinging, Season 2, Episodes 11 and 12, Martin quits his job after interviewing popular talk show host Shanell.
Where
Martin
is
plus
the
the gang
tea?
and
I gotta speed this up. Where's the harassment? We know what happened. I watched every episode. We just get a recap.
Intricate hair weaves and spoken African American. For marketing, a man who worked at the same.
We know all these people. This is wild. I didn't think this is what we was gonna
Later
get.
that year, he was arrested and charged
Okay.
vacation
Now
while
we're
he
getting tea.
exhibited some odd behavior.
You go.
Some of the most used ones were
What's up? What's up?
Okay, I think we're getting to the
Go,
tea
girl.
now.
And
Jesus.
Get the stepping.
from a career perspective, Martin was at the absolute top of his game in the mid-90s. But he'd also begun to exhibit some odd behavior in public. In May 1996, he was spotted in the middle of a busy intersection in Los Angeles, yelling and cursing and in possession of a concealed firearm. The police were called and they picked him up. While his rep blamed his behavior on dehydration and exhaustion and claimed he'd neglected to take prescribed medication and suffered a seizure, Martin confessed in his A&E biography that he was high and had no idea how he ended up in the street.
Oh.
Later that year, he was arrested and charged with a misdemeanor when
I
a
think
gun
we
was
talked about
found in
this
his
on
carry-on
a
luggage
stand-up
at an
too that I
airport.
saw.
More drama continued the following year when he punched out a guy on the dance floor of a nightclub who he claimed had bumped into him. And then his wife at the time, former
looked like
Miss Virginia
Gina.
Patricia
That's
Southall,
creepy.
alleged he exhibited violent and unhinged behavior towards her, leading to their ultimate divorce. In Tashina's 2018 episode of TV One's Uncensored, she spoke about how all the success Martin was experiencing in his career at that time began to go to his head and also damage his relationships with other members of the cast.
Unfortunately, you know, Martin, you get to a certain place in stardom where, you know, okay, he was no longer part of the cast, but he was the executive producer, and now so, you know, that distance started being created, you know, between the two. And, you know, the network has a lot to do with that as well. You know, they take care of the star, then everybody else is a piece of shit. That's just how it goes down. And, you know, you embrace being a piece of shit. But Martin, unfortunately, you know, show business at a certain point in his life got the best of him. And when that happens, you see it happening. And there's nothing you can do about it. You know, you pray for that person. It's almost like watching a car crash that you can't stop.
Even with the behind-the-scenes drama and the personal issues of its lead star, Martin had a good 5-season run, and probably could have gone on for a few more if what happened next hadn't happened. By season 5, the relationship between Martin and Tisha had completely fallen apart, resulting in her quitting the show. Hence the reason why she doesn't appear in most of the episodes of the show's final season. HBO, which produced the series for Fox, filed for a temporary restraining order to try to force her to return to work, pending arbitration. She countersued, alleging repeated and escalating sexual harassment, sexual battery, verbal abuse, and related threats.
Wow.
In addition, the lawsuit said executives for HBO had long-standing knowledge about everything that was going on, but failed to do anything about it. Martin's response? He claimed that Tisha just wanted out of her contract. Tisha's lawsuit detailed a season-by-season account of what it called Martin's mistreatment and obsession. Apparently, problems started immediately in the first season when Tisha had to consistently turn Martin down for days. In the second season, he became increasingly manic and volatile, and he would often and easily fly into uncontrollable fits of rage, for no apparent or rational reason. He would also threaten to fire cast and crew members. The rages then became worse in the third season. Martin humiliated and abused Tisha in front of the entire cast and crew on so many occasions that it reached the point where she needed to be hospitalized due to the stress he caused her. Tisha charged that Martin would grope her, kiss her, force his tongue into her mouth, and simulate intercourse with her on the set in front of the cast and crew during moments when they were not rehearsing or filming scenes. By the 5th season, the lawsuit said Martin was simply out of control. Despite Tisha's pleadings to writers that they stop creating scenes where she and Martin would have to be in bed, they continued to do so. Then, in November 1996, Martin had his most hysterical outburst to date, physically confronting and throwing such a rage at Tisha that she was terrified and concerned for her safety. She then told producers she was leaving and would not be returning. Tisha's suit was settled out of court. She did return to the show to film the final episodes, but under the condition she did not have to share scenes with Martin. Making for an incredibly awkward series finale that saw Martin and Gina repeatedly exit sets before the other would enter. At the time, Martin insisted the show concluded because he wanted it to. Even decades later, he'd insist the same, dismissing the narrative that his behavior had anything to do with the show's cancellation in an interview with GQ in 2020. I just decided to end it. People said that I got canceled, but that wasn't the case. I decided to just leave the show. A week or so after that, Tisha did an interview with The Talk and was asked about her former co-star's remarks.
Well, you know, I can't go into much detail about the past because there was a confidentiality agreement, and so the gag order says no. Okay. But what I can say is, to your question, I was actually kind of shocked. And so there were people in my ear saying, you know, just to be quiet, don't say anything. And then there were other people who were like, you need to back back. You know what I mean? But I was like, I took a day and I said, I'm gonna just hit him up. So I hit him up. He called me within a minute. It didn't even take him a minute to call me back. And so I was like, hey, and he was like, T. I said, yo, are we good? And he was like, yeah, T, don't read into what it is. You know, there's a lot of people that's trying to bring up the past and trying to make it news today. But, you know, T, we're good. I love you. I love your family. And I was like, okay. And he said, most people don't know that we've talked. And so when you go, if you look back, there's some pictures of us, and we had lunch last year. And most people were talking about a reboot. And for us, it wasn't about a reboot. It was about a reconnection. He reached out to me. And I got to break bread with my co-stars, and we got to talk about everything. Okay? And so I can't, again, I'm not going to go into details because I want to respect his privacy and I want to respect mine. But I will say by the end of it, it was nothing but laughter and healing. And I got a chance to experience that, and I'm so glad that we're in a good place right now.
Sadly, on October 12, 2016, Tommy passed away from a ruptured abdominal aneurysm following a surgical procedure in the Atlanta, Georgia area. He was 52 years old. Now, here's some more fun facts about Martin. In season 1, the song Gina performed in episode 25, titled Variety Show, was her very own.
I don't really care about these facts. Damn, this is crazy. Like I said, I definitely recall hearing that there was some sexual harassment or some weird shit that took place and caused the show to end, but I didn't know the details to know that he was simulating sex between the two. So that means that he was on top of her, like doing a little motion and like being weird when she's constantly telling him like, no, stop, I'm not interested in you, like, can you stop, can we keep it professional? And he just kept on, and she complained multiple times, but nothing was being done about it. They just was letting it fly, as they do in Hollywood. It's crazy how much shit, you know, gets swept under the rug, and so many people are being abused, and so many people are being discriminated against, and all type of shit, but nothing happens. It's like, who do you complain to when everybody is in on it and everybody getting money from it? Like, girl, anyway, we don't care. Like, you got to take it to the courts, and that's exactly what she did. So kudos to her. I support it. But this was wild. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Let me know what other videos you want to watch, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Bye.